Welcome back to another Game Time Discussions. I'm Emery Cuzzy. I'm sitting here with Cameron Selby, and we're going to be going over the divisional round. We're going to start by talking about the Showdown slates on the Saturday. You have the KC game versus Houston, and then you have Detroit versus the Washington Commanders. Going to be a fun slate. You have the lowest total at 41.5 for the KC game, and then you have the highest total on the slate on the weekend, 55.5 for the other game. Going to be a lot of fun. So we're going to talk about these. How we're going to do this is we're going to talk about these individually as showdown slates, and then I'm going to cut them and release them as individual slates. So you will see those both. If you are watching them now, you obviously know that. So we will be putting those up. But I'll let Cam talk about some of the weather issues that we're going to be seeing.
Yeah. Well, on the Saturday ones, there shouldn't be any weather concerns. Kansas City looks like being on the afternoon on Saturday, it's going to miss the cold front that's going to hit the country this weekend. So, mid-30s, nothing really going to be impacting either team. And then highest total game, dome game, doesn't matter. Even if it's snowing outside, it's going to be putting up a lot of points. So very different slates on how we're going to approach it because Detroit, Washington, ton of spend-up options.
Mm-hmm.
Kansas City, Houston's more of the mid-tier price guys, so it's just going to be having to figure out how we're going to dive between each one.
Yeah, let's pull up the first slate on the board. You can see it now. It's the KC versus Houston game. We're going to talk about the Houston side of the ball first. Houston is the underdog. I believe it's 8.5 at the moment, which I kind of agree with. I think that, we've talked about Houston hasn't played well. They recently lost to Kansas City by 8 points on the dot. So this is kind of makes a lot of sense. There's some guys that we'll talk about. We'll talk about the pass catchers first. Nico Collins. Schultz here goes all the way down real quick.
Right.
Mechie at 34.
It is worth mentioning Deontay Johnson did get cut.
He did, yes.
Waived because of whatever reason. There was a post-game locker room, issue. He immediately got waived following the win. Robert Woods has been playing some snaps, but he was banged up. I think he DNP'd on Tuesday, but just worth monitoring. But he did play 51% of the snaps this past week, so even though he hasn't really had any kind of fantasy relevance, even in games where, multiple of Nico and Stephon Diggs and Tank Dells of the world all season, when there's multiple that have been out, he really hasn't stepped up to be a value. But being a snap count thing, trailing, he is in the pool for sure. And then Xavier Hutchinson, last guy in, he played 38% for what it's worth. So it's really these guys. And then also Cade Stover, now out for the year. I think he fractured his collarbone. So truly it is Mr. Dalton Schultz by himself with Irv Smith Jr., who we've brought up before as a potential, as a play.
Right.
He is still yet to catch a pass as a Texan, but he's like the one guy if you need to go down that low. But I don't even know if you need to do that based on the pricing on this slate.
Yeah, not on this slate so much. I think that, Nico is actually the most expensive player at 10.6, so I'm kind of okay just trying to find other ways and not having to go all the way down there. Talking about the others, the running backs, you have Joe Mixon, of course, and he's basically the only guy in town. I know Dameon Pierce is $2,000 and had a really good Week 18, but that was also against without any starters and against Tennessee Titans defense. You have a much better defense in KC, and he will not play whatever insane amount of snaps he had.
I think he had 3 carries this past week, even though Mixon, in a good game script to where a lot of running backs should be playing. Well, Dara Ogunbowale actually had more snaps than he did. Dameon Pierce only had 6 snaps, which was 8%. Really kind of not somewhere I'm looking to this week.
If you want to go Mixon, he's $9,600. I think it's a reasonable price, though, and he's been pretty good, especially because you have to play a Houston player. So Which Houston player are you going to play? I don't hate Mixon in this situation. Going to the other team, KC is – we both picked KC to win. We both are comfortable with it. So talking about the pass catchers for them, Xavier Worthy's been getting 10 targets a game. Travis Kelce is $8,000, way too cheap in my personal opinion. There's Hollywood.
They're all just in that
Noah Gray
in the middle.
That's who I'm.
Noah Gray in there.
Yeah, why not?
That's really it. Sure, there's guys that might catch some passes or play more snaps. Juju Smith-Schuster actually played, if I remember correctly, and we're not counting Week 18. It didn't matter. But Week 17 at least. Since Week 12, 5 of those 6 games, he's played at least 50% of the snaps.
Okay.
Sizable workload for somebody below 3,000. Yep. But at the same time, he's a lot of times running cardio. So other than one showdown game where he had 100 yards, that I'm very sorry that I convinced you not to play him. Is what it is. He just, for the most part, that was his one fantasy relevant game of the year. Otherwise, it's been these guys just kind of mix and match.
Yep.
That's kind of how we're really going to approach this game. Mostly 4-2 builds, 5-1 even is on the pool, at least on my end of things. Yeah, all these guys are in play, even though the workloads have been inconsistent, and we'll get into that in a little bit.
Yeah. So let's talk about our game script. I think we're pretty, lock and key on this. So I'll let you go first.
Yeah, and again, this is the perfect spread, 8.5, because they've been kind of keeping it close with most teams all year, but at the same time, a couple weeks off, and now they're playoff locking in mode that maybe they're just going to handle the teams that they're supposed to. So I actually put it as 27-13 in favor of Kansas City.
Okay.
Houston's coming off a dominant win, but it was just kind of blown open because of LA's mistakes more so than Houston just taking control. I just don't see Kansas City giving themselves the chance to just like multiple turnovers deep in their own territory,
Right,
or stuff to give Houston those kinds of points. And so unless Houston's able to just put long sustaining drives together, I think this will be kind of a one-sided affair.
Yep, I agree. I have it 24-14. We both actually took the under, and we both took the Kansas City spread. So we're pretty much on the same page on both things. Talking about some players, must plays. I think you kind of just take your pick between Patrick Mahomes and then one of his pass catchers that you think you have to play.
Yeah, we're kind of on the same boat. I put Mahomes as the must play. I just don't see a scenario where you get away from him. Even if we played this as a showdown on when they played each other on Saturday, because it was prior to Christmas, and they were that, and then Baltimore, Pittsburgh were playing as well, and I think Mahomes only had 18 points, but he was still optimal. He still did well because everything that went on, but it was just kind of, if you got the pass catchers right, he had a just modest
23.
Oh, he had 23. I was looking at the wrong game when I was prepping for it, but yeah, 23. Again, he's starting to kind of hit his stride at the right time. But even if he does hit what his season average is, which is 18, 19 fantasy points, I just think I don't see a way that this game doesn't put that in the optimal.
Right, for sure. And then I, pick your favorite pass catcher from this team. I picked Travis Kelce just because I think honestly, I had a hard time picking between Travis Kelce and Xavier Worthy. I think both of them are good options, especially price-wise. They made it hard on you, but I just shoved both of them in a line together. So that's kind of where I'm at. Pick your favorite pass catchers for Patrick Mahomes and get going. Fades-wise, we both kind of thought the same thing. You put Isaiah Pacheco. I just put the KC running backs. I just don't want either of them really. One of them might fall in the end zone and it'll be annoying, but I don't know who, and I don't know how many snaps either one's going to get or how many touches either one's going to get. So I'll just stay away and just be okay with it.
And also you have to kind of make some stands up top, because I don't think that there's a comfortable build you can do hypothetically doing a Nico, Mahomes, and Joe Mixon up top. So you have to fade one. And if I had to, I'd probably say Joe Mixon's the guy I want to, because of the game script that we're predicting as being a 2-touchdown, playing from behind. He was very inefficient the first half of this past game, but then when the Chargers were kind of playing with their food a little bit, kept them in the game, and then he really started to kind of get those chunk plays at the end. Well, I don't see a way where those chunk plays are going to be available late in the game this week. So it basically comes down to, if he just gets the 30 touch but just falls into the end zone and gets 20 points on an inefficient matter, instead of him actually just having the 6-7 yards a touch. Yeah, like we've seen them have those boom games way back earlier in the season. And
then talking about our contrarian plays, you had I have KC's defense. I think that they're interesting. They're overly expensive, so no one wants to play them, I'm sure, at 5,600. But at the same time, if they are able to actually create turnovers and create sacks wise, I don't think they're going to – I personally don't have Houston scoring – neither of us do actually – have Houston scoring over 14 points. So when that's the case, I'm okay with playing a defense even if they're expensive.
Absolutely. And I don't fault you for that a single bit, because they are a good defense. They're just not creating the turnovers, the splash plays. But I actually think the defense will be less owned than either kicker, because
Right.
Kyrie Fairbairn's been really strong as a kicker this year, and then Harrison Butker being 600 cheaper. That's just kind of one of those things that I think people usually just kind of play the one that's cheaper
Right, for sure.
if it's close enough. My contrarian play is actually going to be DeAndre Hopkins, and it's mainly because it's not that it's hard to fit him or afford him. It's just that he hasn't really been getting the opportunities. You've seen the worthy games in recent weeks. You've seen Hollywood Brown in the small sample size, which we like him so much on the main slate because he's really, really cheap.
Yeah.
He is cheap again, so people are going to flock to him. Travis Kelce, playoffs, having boom games, the narrative with all that and him only being 8,000. But DeAndre Hopkins, 7,600, less than 50% of the snaps. I just think analytically he's not going to project well.
Right.
And
That's
a lot
fair.
of people are just going to say that he's going to be the lowest known pass catcher for the Chiefs, at least in the the ones that you're comfortable playing. I'm not talking about the Jujus of the world, but just this range. Again, you can afford him, but it's just you don't feel as comfortable doing that as like another play. But I'd rather go to him instead of either running back. I'm not saying that I play him over the other guys. I'd say I play him with those guys.
Right. I think that's fair. I think he's a direct contrarian play off of the other two. Like if you want to play him, he's a little bit cheaper, but he's not as consistent. So he's a direct contrarian play to both Travis Kelce and Xavier Worthy. Let's talk about a line. I'll let you go first.
So I'm going to put Mr. Patrick Mahomes at the captain.
Okay.
And just say, hey, I don't know if any of these guys are going to hit 20, but they're all going to help him be the optimal captain.
Right.
So I'm going to just put them all in. I'm going to put Kelce in. I'm going to put Mahomes, Worthy in. I'm going to put Hopkins in, and I'm going to put Brown in on this line.
Wow.
All four of them. And then that leaves just enough for Mr. Dalton Schultz.
Okay.
Being a 5-1 build. Again, Cade Stover out for the year. Dalton Schultz hopefully being the second, most common pass catcher. He did, for the record, have a touchdown, one of his 2 touchdowns on the year, and one of his best fantasy days on the season against Kansas City, trailing from behind on that Saturday slate from a couple of weeks ago. So 5-1 build. Again, I don't know how chalky this would be because it is fading Nico, it is fading Joe Mixon, it is fading CJ Stroud, but I just like the way organically it fit.
That's fair. I will build mine. It's pretty similar. But I'm going to – so truly in my line, you can pick between Xavier Worthy and Travis Kelce. I'm not going to have Hopkins. I will have Dalton Schultz. So I'll just take Worthy out. It does because I did say that Kelce is my play, but at the same time, you could flip it. It wouldn't hurt me in any way. And then I'm going to go down to Harrison Butker and get the kicker on top of that and just have points in that way. I think Nico has the most upside for the Houston Texans, and if someone is going to score – and, of course, I expect the game where they're going to be down. It kind of fits that narrative of throw the ball, but I don't want the quarterback because I think he's going to throw picks, and I think he's going to, not play as well, not have as many touchdowns. The guys I want, Nico Collins and Dalton Schultz possibly. Dalton Schultz is also a maybe, in my opinion. I was hoping to maybe get to Fairbairn, which I can.
Mm-hmm. With this double kicker.
Yeah, so you could go Fairbairn instead, but either way, it's fine. If you did go up to Xavier Worthy, though, you would not be able to get to Fairbairn.
Let me ask you if you and I like your build, and I was wondering because I don't know if I end up wanting to do multiple lines on any of these showdowns,
right?
But it is very uncomfortable fading a Nico Collins.
Yeah.
When you do, and he's the only guy to spend up for. So one question I did have is if you went back down to Schultz instead of Fairbairn, do you have enough money to flop a captain to where you pick either a Kelce or a Worthy at captain, and then instead of Hollywood Brown,
get the other,
be able to get up to him? I think you have just enough, if I'm not mistaken.
That's not that one. That one, Kelce, Mahomey, and
you're 200 short
on.
Okay.
That was the Kelce side of it.
Gotcha.
That's I'm very close.
So,
but you could go Fairbairn.
You would have to do the Hopkins thing. So,
well, you do this right.
Gotcha.
So you could go Fairbairn, but then you're going 3-3. Which,
not as fun.
Or I'll just go down to Noah Gray. Now, a guy that I want to talk about, John Mechie is a guy that I would like to get to if I, instead. So maybe I'll save that $1,000. And I could go from here. I have $1,000 to go up to, I could always do this, but I was actually doing it with the Patrick Mahomes at top. So Patrick at cap. If you would go there, that'd be great. Xavier, bam, like that. Cam, what do you think of that one?
Yeah, I think that works. I did want to point out because, yeah, you are correct about John Mechie. Last week, he only did play 51% of the snaps, which was the exact same as Robert Woods. But comparing the two's
Targets,
workloads,
yeah.
Robert Woods had 2 for 22 on 4 targets, and John Mechie, he only had 4 for 28, but he tied the team lead with 8 targets. So, yeah, I don't mind that at all. I think more people are going to flock to Dalton Schultz. So, yeah, if you wanted to do that, and if you wanted to just say, instead of Schultz, I want Mechie to leave 1,000 on the table.
Yeah, fair.
You're not really going up to anything. Just be more tournament-y. You're going to be less duped that way. So I definitely like that a lot.
Perfect. Well, let's go.
And then for what it's worth, just sorry to cut you off, but you have enough to, instead of one of the kickers get up to your tournament play, which is Kansas City's defense, instead of one of those kickers in that scenario as well.
Yeah, that's true. If I had Kelsey up there, it would work. Kansas City's defense only having Mechie and Nico, but game script tells us that that's probably the best options. Right. We should see CJ Stroud throw the ball 35 times in this game. As we said earlier, we're going to be releasing these into 2 videos and a main video, but we appreciate y'all hanging out with us. We hope that y'all enjoyed the video. We have a lot of stuff coming up. Draft season will be happening after all this. We already started breaking it down. Dustin's on transfers, so he will have some ideas of all the transfers going on. Cam, of course, will be getting us ready for after the season and talking about the outlook for all these teams. So there's a lot of fun stuff happening, but let's kill divisional weekend and hopefully make some money.
Exactly.
And go on from there.
Yeah, we appreciate you guys tuning in. We did a main slate. Please check that out. Also, there's the Sunday showdowns that we're going to be breaking down as well. Get ready for it all. We like to play everything.
Yeah.
A lot of people just want to cover the main and just give you 150 lines and how you're going to manipulate ownership. Well, we're not there yet. We don't have an optimizer. We're hand building. That's how most of y'all do it. And so instead of doing just a bunch of hand builds on one single contest, we're like, all right, I want here. I want to play everywhere.
Yeah.
That's what we like to do. And so hopefully you guys have enjoyment doing that. And again, let's kill it this weekend.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off of that, we want to give you the core and the ideas that, we're thinking, and then allow y'all to go and be like, well, I'd rather play, the De'Ami Brown, Zacchaeus, Tim Patrick idea, just like switching up one guy and like being like, okay, this is making me more different and stuff like that. So we're giving you the idea and how we're thinking about building, and then hopefully y'all are adjusting just a tad bit to make your line more tournament-y, and that's how you win money.
Right.
So we appreciate y'all hanging out with us, though, and we will see you on the next one.